Yo, welcome back to my channel. Um, I'm Aubrey Love. If you're new to my channel, it's your first time clicking on it, please watch the whole video. Today we're gonna be doing the top 10 biggest draft busts in NBA history. It's been a lot of busts, man. Anthony Bennett. Um, that's the first one I could think of right now. Is Markel Fultz a bust? So the dude who was drafted before Michael Jordan. Although I assume those guys will be on here, but let's just get right into it, man.
A contender in just a few years. If the franchise screws up the draft,
That's
they'll
the
miss
dude who
one of
got
the
drafted
few
before Michael
chances to
Jordan.
make their team competitive, leaving them stuck in the mud and ridiculed by the world. In this video,
Dirko
we'll
Milicic,
talk about those instances
Anthony
where
Bennett.
GMs screwed up badly. Here are the 10 biggest NBA draft busts ever.
I don't know who that one is.
Number 10, Adam Morrison. Adam
He got
Morrison
hurt.
always looked like
Okay,
a
let me just say this. Let me just say this, y'all. I don't consider you a bust if injuries derailed your career. I consider you a bust if you played and you was trash. Just put that Kwame Brown. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that.
member of a punk band, but when he was at Gonzaga, that long hair and thin mustache was averaging 28 points per game and was a finalist for the NCAA Player of the Year. Morrison was the third draftee to shake David Stern's hand in the
He was
2006
cold.
draft, and Charlotte hoped he'd be their franchise player for the next decade, but he wasn't. Morrison shot just 37% from the field as a rookie, and it was obvious he'll never come close to his college numbers. It was straight downhill from there, as Adam blew out his knee in season 2. When he returned, he was a shell of the player that once led the NCAA in scoring. He won 2 titles with the Lakers in '09 and '10.
That boy champion.
Because that's all he was good for at that point, after which he retired at the age of 25. Number 9, Derek Williams. Williams was
I
the
don't remember
second
Derek
pick in the
Williams.
2011 draft. He was drafted ahead of Kemba Walker, Klay Thompson, and Kawhi Leonard, among other players who all had better careers. Williams is a prime example of a highly athletic player who shined in college just because he was more physically talented than everybody. Once he got to the NBA, where everyone is athletic, the truth was soon out, and it was ugly. Williams couldn't shoot, he couldn't dribble, and he couldn't defend. Apart from a few highlights, Williams didn't produce much and showed almost no improvements in his game. After bouncing around the NBA, he's now playing overseas, even though he's still in his 20s.
Oh, I know who that is,
Number 8,
bruh. He
Darrell
dunked on
Martin.
everybody in
Darrell Martin was
2K.
another successful college player who simply wasn't good enough for the pros. Drafted first overall in the NBA and third overall in the ABA, Martin was considered the worst number 1 pick for a long time. He was selected by the Portland Trailblazers in 1972, whose scouts saw Martin in 2 college games, which was enough for them to draft him in front of future Hall of Famers Bob McAdoo and Julius Erving. When he came to the NBA, it was apparent that he could not play and that he's more suited for minor leagues. Despite being a
His throw
6'11
code.
center, LaRue shot just 41.6% from the field for 5 points per game. After 4 years, he was out of the league and retired from basketball after rejecting multiple offers from Europe. Number 7, Hasheem Thabeet. 2009
Oh,
was one of the
Hasheem
last
Thabeet.
years
I thought he
the
was gonna be
NBA
cold.
GMs still search for dominant centers that can battle in the post against the behemoths that were Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, or Dwight Howard. And Hasheem Thabeet, a 7'3" center, had plenty to offer to those GMs, at least on paper. He was extremely athletic and mobile for that size and length, and had half the NBA drooling over his defensive potential. Unfortunately, his basketball skills were far below his athletic gifts, and Thabeet proved to be a player with arguably the lowest basketball IQ.
I thought
ever
Thabeet was
played
gonna
in
be
the NBA.
nice.
Thabeet later admitted he only started playing ball after his growth spurred.
I
and his
drafted him
only
on
interest
2K
in the
all the
game was
time.
because he thought he could get drafted and make money. Memphis wasted their second pick on a player that never averaged more than 3.1 points in a season, and Thabeet was out of the league after 5 years. Number 6 and number 5, Sam Bowie and Greg Oden. Before the 1984 draft, Portland Trailblazers needed a center. They needed someone that could battle with Kareem and the Lakers, and they already had an all-star shooting guard, Jim Paxson, and 2 talented young wings, Clyde Drexler and Kiki Vandeweghe. So, they drafted Sam Bowie in front of 3 future Hall of Famers, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and John Stockton. Bowie's scouting
wouldn't have
report
drafted
described
John
him as an
Stockton.
athletic rebounder, a masterful blocker on defense, and an extremely versatile
He
weapon
got
on
hurt too, though,
offense,
y'all.
who can move well, shoot from outside, and pass better than most NBA centers at the time. The only issue was his left leg, which he broke during his junior year at college, but Portland's officials determined it was fully healed and that it would be a non-issue going forward. I can still remember them taking a little mallet they would hit me on my left tibia, I would tell them, I don't feel anything. He ended up playing just 139 out of a possible 410 games in his first 5 seasons. Despite his injuries, Bowie has had an 11-year NBA career in which he averaged 11 points, 7.5 rebounds,
Better
2
than a
blocks.
lot of
While
people on
Portland's
this
reasoning
list.
is understandable. They drafted what they needed at the time. You can't argue with the results. And because he was drafted in front of Michael Jordan, many consider Sam Bowie as the biggest bust ever, to a little fault of his own. And 23 years later, history repeated itself. This time, Portland had the first pick. They decided to spend
Passed
it
up
on
on
the best
Kevin
center in the
Durant.
NCAA instead of another generational scorer. Greg Oden was supposed to be the next Shaq. It really looked like he could be the next dominant NBA center at times. Unfortunately, those times were very short. Oden played just 82 games for the Blazers, after which multiple knee injuries have forced him to retire at the age of 22.
At one
Not counting
time,
the
he was
short
supposed to come
stint
back and
with
play
the
with
Heat.
LeBron.
I'm
Yeah.
not keen on calling Oden a bust, because the man could really play when he was healthy. But the problem is that he was never fully healthy, and that the team who drafted him could have drafted Kevin Durant instead. Number 4, Michael Oluwakandi. Coming from Nigeria and standing at 7
I never
feet,
saw this
Michael
dude.
Oluwakandi had a golden ticket to make it to the NBA. He was big, strong, and athletic, which was enough for him to bully most of his opponents in the NCAA. He dominated the Big West Conference in his senior year, with the averages of 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, and was named Big West Player
That boy
of the
got a
Year.
double-double.
It was enough for the Clippers to select him first overall, in front of Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, Mike Bibby, or Antoine Jameson. When he came to the league, he and everybody else soon realized that his size and athleticism could only go so far. Although Oluwakandi was a solid defensive player, he never developed any sort of offensive game, apart from open dunks and putbacks. The Candyman averaged just 8 points per game per his career on dreadful 43% shooting, which is unacceptable for any center.
Look at
let
Rep
alone
dodging
first
it.
base.
Airball.
Number 3, Kwame Brown.
Kwame Brown.
Perfect rags to riches story. Not uncommon in the NBA. Growing up surrounded by guns and violence, Kwame Brown kept his behind in the gym, and it paid off. Kwame was a fast and athletic 7-footer who was averaging more than 20 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 blocks as a high school senior. He was named the best high school player in the country and the greatest talent of his generation. He became the first high school player selected first overall, rejecting multiple offers from the NCAA, which would have been more suited for his basketball and emotional development. There's simply no turning down Michael Jordan and millions that come with the first pick. So he became a wizard. And once MJ decided to make another comeback, Kwame also became a teammate of the man who just drafted him, which didn't go so well for him. After an initial friendship between the 19-year-old kid and the man twice his age, who many called the GOAT, MJ started to lose his patience with Brown. He berated him at every chance he could and insulted him like he did Jerry Krause in The Last Dance. Kwame couldn't take it, and he completely lost his confidence and then never regained it. He averaged just 6.6 points, 5.5 rebounds, and half a block per game in his 12-year NBA career, frequently switching teams, with a bust label following him everywhere he went. Number 2, Darko Milicic. Darko Milicic was presented to the general public as the next star big man from Europe, and was supposed to follow the trend set by Dirk and Pau Gasol. The Pistons had the 2nd overall pick. Were on the hook. They drafted Darko in front of 3 future Hall of Famers, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Coach Larry Brown had a championship team in Detroit. There were not many minutes for Darko, who handled it very immaturely. He never worked hard in practice. He partied almost daily. And when he got an opportunity to play, he pouted and isolated himself from the team. The Pistons traded him in his 3rd year, after just 96 games he played for them. While Braun, Melo, Wade, and Bosh were all averaging over 20.
Oh, Brown was
Darko
in that
averaged
draft
just
too?
1.6 points, with 1.2 rebounds for Detroit. He stuck around until 2013, with career averages of just 6 points and 4 rebounds. Number 1, Anthony Bennett.
I knew he was going to be
25%
up
of all
here.
players selected first overall make first-team All-NBA at least once, while 55% of them play in at least one All-Star game. When it comes to Anthony Bennett, not only did he not make an All-Star team, just 4 years after he got selected first overall, he was already out of the league. Far from a spectacular college player, Anthony Bennett became the first Canadian selected as the first pick of the NBA draft. To much surprise of the whole world, he was picked ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo, CJ McCollum, Rudy Gobert, Victor Oladipo, Steven Adams, and other quality players. Some will say that the burden of the first pick ruined Anthony Bennett, that he never developed his game due to pressure, and that moving from team to team ruined his potential. But that's simply not true. He was just plain bad. Bennett was inefficient offensively, with a low basketball IQ, and he couldn't guard a chair. He shouldn't have been drafted at all, let alone with the first pick. And that's why he's the biggest bust to ever play in the NBA. Thank you for watching.
The thing about Anthony Bennett though, he making a comeback right now, so you know he might get on the right track to not be the biggest bust all the time. But yeah, that's the top 10 biggest draft busts in NBA history, man. If y'all made it all the way through this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel if you're new. I really appreciate that. But until next time, goodbye.